After high school, I went to study at Smith College for 2 years and then at Brown University for 2 years and majored in religious studies. And I decided to apply to rabbinical school. And now here I am in my first year in rabbinical school. Will it surprise you if I tell you that I'm not struggling anymore? I'm just not struggling, and I'm certainly not struggling with the issue of Judaism and homosexuality. I've really come to approach the text as an evolving document that's layered with human experience. And so the text doesn't hurt me or pain me in the way that it did. I just want to transmit a joyous Judaism. I want a Judaism that is free of fear, a Judaism that takes the love of God and spreads it, and does that through justice work and does it through realizing that each soul has its own tikkun, has its own repair that it has to do in the world, and trying to affirm for everyone that I interact with that they should listen to what their soul has to do because only they can do it. It just got to the point where love didn't depend on gender. And I just started to see sexuality as something that was really fluid. And as I was growing and changing, clearly my sexuality would grow and change as well. I identify as queer. I use queer to mean that things are in flux, that nothing can be pinpointed on a spectrum. And just the term itself to me is a term of activism. I think queer is not just a label for sexuality, but also for a way of viewing the world. I've traveled to a lot of places with Hineini and been to lots of different screenings. And what's so incredible is that after screenings, people come up and share their stories. Even the most personal things about how they couldn't come out when they were in high school, or how their granddaughter's a lesbian and at first they couldn't deal with it, but now they can. And I feel like I now am this kind of encyclopedia of people's stories from gay Jews across the country, and it's just an honor to be able to hold all that. What's the consensus about reading them?
We don't have a consensus.
Since high school, my activism has really shifted to being really one-on-one focused. And it's all about really opening up myself, and in doing so, helping the other person to open up. And there's some big crazy stuff too, like at Brown. The first week I hung up a rainbow flag at Hillel to try to make a point that everyone was welcome in that space. I love that the open house still exists, but it doesn't surprise me. I founded it because of a real need, and that need is still there. What thrills me is that there are a group of students who are really committed to it and are keeping it alive. Vatashem ba et hayeled vatasem basuf al sfat hayor. Our favorite words. Most of my activism now is really in terms of Jewish education. I want a Judaism that's just vibrant and alive and isn't afraid of evolution and process. And a Judaism that really embraces God and truth as evolving along with us. People have come up to me with the accusation that being gay is a phase, and have used my story as an example. And my response really is, it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. But the job as a parent or a friend or an educator is to affirm where the person is now. And exactly where they are is beautiful. And if they're not met with a mazal tov where they are, then how are they supposed to move to where they'll be next?
והנחל אל I would like the Jewish community to be a place where they could say, times are changing. For my 4 years of high school, I knew that I was gay, but I wasn't out. But then after I graduated, I came out, and I just finished my sophomore year at Wesleyan, and over the summer I'm working downtown at a lab at Tufts Medical Center, and I've been out for 3 years now. I think it is harder for guys to come out because I think the guys feel like they have to work harder to hide it. There's little things as like the way you cross your legs. If you cross your legs in a more feminine way, someone might be like, oh, that's a gay thing for a guy to do. But if a girl does something more manly, they won't think, oh, that she might be a lesbian as much. So since guys have to work harder to hide it, I think when they decide to come out, it becomes harder because they've worked hard to suppress it. I think in general, if a girl is gay, it doesn't mean to most people that she's more of a man. But if a guy is gay, it definitely makes people think of him as more of a woman, I guess. So I guess gender role wise, it can be harder. I mean, I think at New Jew, at least when I was there, I had no sense of a gay community whatsoever. I mean, I knew Miss Tanchel was gay, but I mean, Mr. Krasner left after the first year. To me, open house wasn't like the safe place to go for a gay student. As far as I knew, there were no openly gay people in open house at the time. I mean, you can see, oh, it's all right, but there's no one out at the school who's out, so why would I want to come out? I didn't want to be the only one. Even though the open house existed. Because I didn't need a support group to tell me to come out. I needed just there to be gay people that I knew were gay walking around. I mean, looking back, I realized I made the wrong decision by not coming out in high school. I think because I can see how now my being out just makes me a more comfortable person, and I think I'm more enjoyable to be around, and I enjoy being around myself more. Because I mean, look, I'm better friends with most of the friends that I have from high school. I'm closer with now that I've come out, because I'm not hiding anything, and I feel like more accepted by them even than I did beforehand.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a good weekend.
Gann Academy has a gay-straight alliance. It meets every Wednesday at lunch. We're hoping that we'll have a lot of new people this year. We have good discussions in a very safe environment. Just come and see what it's about.
Since Shula graduated, I think the number of students who've come out to me in my office is somewhere in the vicinity of 8 or 9 that I can think about. Last year was a bumper crop year. And yet, I think we still have a ways to go in making kids feel safe enough that they are willing to take those risks in a more public forum. It is a deep curiosity for me, actually, about why students who are out amongst their friends are not out at open house.
When Shula came out and affected the school in the way that she did, she managed to impress upon people that this was something that was a very present and real issue. We don't have anybody at our school right now who is openly out, so it's a different sort of situation.
It's really important that it exists and that it's there, and if someone were to need a safe space, whatever that is, or people to come out to, or people just to talk to, that we're there, we're room 146 every single week. Really no assumptions are made. People don't ask you questions. It really is actually an open, safe space. If you're gay, if you're straight, if you don't know.
Open house is a place that counters isolation in the school. Here in the open house, everyone around you is supportive, agreeing, wanting to discuss the queer issues with you.
Open house is supposed to be a place where if somebody wanted to come out, this would be a place where they could. As far as I know, there haven't been so much coming out in open house.
What does it mean to exactly be out at school? Like, I've actually had this discussion with Dr. Hanschel, where basically she said, well, if you're out to your friends, does every single person at the school need to know?
We have Genesis and we have Exodus. Which book are we going to be doing next? Vayikra. What's that in English? Leviticus. Okay.
Dr. Tanchel is definitely the person who most people go to talk to, I think. And definitely it's helpful to people.
Who's the first king of Israel? Saul. Who's the second king of Israel? David. I want you to write them all down.
That statement that this school is not afraid to have gay teachers teaching Jewish subjects makes gay students, I think, feel so much more welcome just in Judaism. For a gay teacher to get up and say, you know, like, I love Judaism and like this is everything to me and like it's so important to my life is a huge influence, and it makes gay students realize that, yeah, being Jewish is something that you can do and be gay at the same time. Wow.
We now have a handful of out faculty, like the math department. And yes, they're almost all lesbian. I remember my freshman year, I had Catie Byers.
So this exponent has been distributed to the top and the bottom of this fraction.
And she was drawing a Cartesian plane on the board, but she did it very sloppily. And so somebody said, the line isn't straight. And she was like, I'm not straight, so what's the problem here?
The atmosphere for faculty, I would say, is completely different than it was before Shula started her work. I would say things get a little more complicated when we start talking about students. It's made a little easier in the fact that there's an open house and they know that and there's a place to go. But ultimately, each child has to travel his or her own path. And it's not made easier because Shula did it. It's still difficult for them. We have to continue to work to make this a safe space. It just didn't become a safe space and thus stays it. It's an ongoing process that requires work and dedication. And everybody needs to keep working on this because it's not only what the school can do. It's going to take the Jewish community and, you know, parents and extended family to make this a safe place for kids to come out.
I really do feel like I'm a part of something bigger than myself, and I really do feel like I'm affecting the school. And I'm really trying to bring good into the school and to raise important issues and to make sure that this is a voice that's heard.
So many people involved in the production of this film.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that at the outset I thought it was just going to be you.
You and me. Yeah.
Shulamit found us. You know, people often ask us, how did you get the idea for this story? how did this come about? Shulamit walks into a Keshet event, as I talk about in the film. She was seeking community, and she was amazed to find that there was a community that she could be a part of that was affirming for her and gave her support. And through her internship at Keshet, she, as is talked about in the film, went on to campaign to establish the Gay Straight Alliance. So that whole story happened because Shulamit walked through our doors. In the course of Shulamit's campaign at the high school, we asked her to speak at a Keshet community event. One of the people who was really impacted by hearing her story is a man who at the time was in his late 50s, early 60s, and I'd seen him at a few Keshet events. I knew that he was a very successful businessman. I knew that he wasn't really out. One thing that he said to me that I thought was so poignant, he said, "I know that I'm never going to have the kind of voice that Shulamit has." He said, "I'm never going to speak out and make a difference in people's lives in that way. But I have resources that I can help you tell her story, and I can help you amplify her voice."
I was really inspired by Shula. I think that's what kept me going. It was challenging. This was a challenging production, and it did take a very long time to complete this film. In my 20s, I sort of distanced myself from Judaism, and some of the reasons for me I thought it was full of misogyny, it was patriarchal, and I didn't find a place for me where I felt empowered in the tradition. Here was Shula. She was not just a woman, but also a lesbian, and she wasn't willing to just walk away the way I had. Her view was, this is my tradition. These books, these values, this whole, this has been given to me, and I'm going to stay. And I know that, it's clear also in the film that she wasn't sure how she was going to stay, how she was going to figure out for herself, how she was going to feel right inside the tradition, and as she says, feel holy inside the tradition. But she wasn't going to just leave. And I found that really inspiring. We met with Rabbi Lehman when we first, had this idea to do the film. And of course he had some concerns, about bringing a camera into the school, about making this project, but finally he allowed us to begin filming. I did my first shoot. It was Susie Tanchel's classroom. And that night, the board of directors of the school met, and the board reversed Rabbi Lehman's decision. We were no longer welcome on the property of the school to film. From my perspective as the director, this was scary. It was like, what am I going to show? What are people going to see in this film if I can't show the school? I can't be inside the school.
One of the parts of this project that I think is so amazing is that a story about an organizing effort turned into an organizing effort itself, because we continued working on the film from that point, but we weren't accepting that the board's decision was an unmovable decision.
We worked on the film for 3 years, knowing that we had no footage of the school to show, knowing that Rabbi Lehman felt he couldn't give us an interview.
So during the first 3 years of working on the film, we were shooting the interviews and working on the film, and at the same time, we were in constant contact with board members and parents and other people of influence at the school, showing them excerpts of the film, talking with them about how Jewish day schools and Hebrew schools all around the country were already contacting us, wanting us to show them just excerpts of edited interviews. In the end, happily, that in the background organizing effort paid off, and the board did rescind their decision and allow us to shoot at the school and to interview Rabbi Lehman.
There's so many stories. There's just so many little things. People email us. One of my favorite ones is a rabbi who's a teacher at a Solomon Schechter school said that after she saw the film, I think I was a sophomore, a student came into her office and came out to her. And she emailed me and she said, I was ready. You know, as she was talking, I knew what I was going to say when she was done. And when she was done, I said, Mazel Tov.
One of the ones I have is one that said, Dear Edith, I'm an 87-year-old woman. I live in a lesbian trailer park in the Southwest. I've struggled with feeling not accepted in the Jewish community for my entire life, and I just saw your film, and thank you.
Wow.
When I was in high school, I would watch bands playing, and I loved hearing them sing, and I loved hearing them play. It was very important to me to have my music in this film because of the ways that Shula struggled through the same things that I did in high school, but did it in such a brave way.
I'm gonna take the strap off it.
Yeah, I had a feeling that I was gay in high school, but I didn't tell anybody. And I had this big dark secret that I never shared with anybody, and I wasn't in a position to ever tell anyone in my high school. Teenagers jumping off a railroad bridge. They've known each other since they were kids. It's the end of the summer. I just thought that if it were true about myself, that it would mean that I was going to have a really lonely and difficult life. And I was just kind of hoping it wasn't true. That's a good boy. And it's really strange to me that so much has changed in such a short time, really. I've been in a relationship for 11 years, and we are legally married here in Massachusetts, and we have 2 children that we adopted. One is 3 and one is 5. When I came out to my parents, they were devastated, and my mom felt like I had died, and like the person she knew didn't exist anymore. And my dad felt guilty for having supported me as an athlete all those years, like that maybe that turned me into a lesbian. And they just felt a lot of pain. They didn't know anyone who was gay. They thought my life was going to be very difficult. Years later, when Liz and I got married, you know, they couldn't have been happier. They were just right there with us celebrating. They love Liz. They love our kids. And, you know, I guess the idea that I had in high school that if I were gay, my life would be lonely and dark and horrible, you know, it's almost funny now. I mean, it's sad that I had to go through that and that so many people go through that feeling. But it's just, it couldn't have turned out more different from that. I hope for my kids that being gay or lesbian is just not a very big deal. That it's understood as, you know, being left-handed or whatever, that some people are gay and lesbian. Most people aren't, but some people are. Your sister went to college in the fall. She took her posters off the bedroom wall, and the family drove all night from the university. What I would like to say to Shula is that I admire her courage. I think she's inspired and supported a lot of people, and I hope that she knows that she's not in this alone. Teenagers jumping off a railroad bridge.
Going into this assembly, I was afraid that I'd be watching my faith stand in front of a firing squad. because that's sort of how these issues tended to play out. It was usually gay rights activists being very offended by tradition. It was usually modern liberal people being very antagonistic towards tradition. And what made this assembly work was that it very consciously took a step away from that trend. There was no point in the program when I was made to feel guilty about being a traditional Jew. I started out with a mindset that's very typical of adolescence. Things are black and white. Certain things are permitted, certain things are forbidden, and that's the way things are. And I remember my thinking about homosexuality as being like that. Black and white. My faith says it's not permitted. It's not permitted. That's just the way it is. And, I didn't make up my traditions. I didn't come up with this stuff. At the assembly, the text, the biblical text, the biblical prohibition was mentioned and was discussed. And the difficulties in interpreting it and the difficulties in understanding it were brought up and discussed. And that gave me the chance to see even a biblical prohibition as being a little bit unclear. And suddenly, a very, very, very large gray space opened up in my understanding of sexual identity within tradition. I was reminded that my tradition and my faith extend far beyond prohibitions. There are also obligations, and ranked very highly among those obligations are obligations for the well-being of my fellow people. And it was a result of this assembly that I could walk away feeling that suddenly my cut and dry views about homosexuality weren't as significant or as important as my other views about how people ought to be treated.
The best question asked at that assembly was, "I don't understand gay pride." This student said, "I'm straight. Why isn't there straight pride? Shouldn't I be proud of being straight?" And the answer that today I often give my students is that every day is Straight Pride Day. So if they open up a newspaper and they see a mattress commercial with a man and a woman lying on it, that's straight pride. If they see an ad for a wedding ring and there's a man giving a woman a ring, that's straight pride. Gay pride is necessary just in order to get gay people to the table. Because straight isn't just the majority. It isn't actually just the norm. It's what is right. And gay is perceived as what is wrong. And gay people need to be proud of themselves in order to undo that perspective. We need gay pride because every other day of the year is about straight pride. We need to say we're proud because it's not enough for us just to say we are.
I was surprised at their courage, because it does take a lot to open yourself up in a community like that, that is so close, that not to open up, the fact that you're gay is almost holding back and not becoming part of the community and the ideals it stands for. And it made me feel that I was more a part of the community because I was allowed to know about a private aspect of a few people's lives. And so it brought me more inwardly to the community of New Jew. And I felt more trust to the institution and to the teachers because they trust you also with their information.
I have a gay uncle who is an Orthodox Jew, and going into the assembly beforehand, I didn't really overtly talk about. Like, it was just like if people ask, I would tell, and it just wasn't something I would just talk about normally. And I think after going through the assembly and seeing other teachers and other people in the community talk about how they felt and how they were related and how they were gay, I think I felt, even if it was subconsciously, a little bit freer and a little bit more comfortable, with it myself and talking about it within the community.
I didn't know any lesbians. I didn't have anyone to help me understand how I was feeling. So I found the support that I would have gotten from people in the books at the library. I would go to my mom, and my mom would be downstairs looking at the magazines, and I would go curl up with the books on what does it mean that you think you're gay, and like a gay teen resource guide, and just reading it, trying to figure out if this was me, if there were other people out there, if anyone was Jewish and gay. My Jewish identity really comes from my family. I always felt that it was so important. We did Shabbos every Friday.
She is very into her Judaism, and it's difficult for me to feel what's going on inside her, but I don't think she could possibly give up either side of the coin. She is Jewish. She's a lesbian, and she's just going to have to keep moving slowly toward however that comes together. I don't think it's going to be a compromise. She's not going to give up either one or the other.
It says in Genesis that we were all created in God's image, and that we're all faces of God. But sometimes I feel like that doesn't apply to, the part of me that loves women, and that part can't be accepted in a place that's like striving so hard to get to God and to bring holiness into the world. And so that part feels like an outsider.
When she comes to me with struggles or kind of doubting herself, I say, well, it's usually it's like you're made in God's image, and God made you this way, and to accept that part of you, and you have to accept that as part of your being, and God made you. So I understand it in that context.
I want to start what's called a gay-straight alliance.
Yeah, basically, it's a group. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I understand. I took the whole phone list and started calling people. I got through most of my grade and a lot of the other grades. Okay, I was just wondering what you thought about it. I mean, why do you think it doesn't belong at New Jew?
When I first met Shulamit, I thought she was too in your face about being lesbian, and I wondered why she always had to state that she was a lesbian. And then I realized it's not. It's because if she didn't state it, everyone would assume that she was heterosexual.
Okay, yeah, no, you don't have to be in it. I was just wondering if you thought that...
To have this whole aspect of yourself, if you can't discuss it or see how it fits into the rest of your identity, I think that could be one of the most lonely and confusing things ever.
No, I know you're not gay. I know. No, Okay, no, see, the thing is, so I am?
Shula is a serious, thoughtful, creative young woman, so she should be accepted, and part of what that meant was accepting her as a lesbian.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's wonderful, thanks. Would you be willing to help me start it?
I was interested in having that happen and in having a community have to grapple with what that meant.
You know what? No, that's fine that we disagree. That's fine. I just wanted to let you know this is something that I'm working on.
Shula had a definite impact on me. She challenged me to think about her as a person, not just as an idea. She challenged me to think about what it means to be a teenager growing up with real issues of sexual identity that needed to be played out in a Jewish community. And these were issues that I wasn't comfortable dealing with.
A lot of public schools in Massachusetts have gay-straight alliances, and they've proven that they really help kids who are gay feel safe at school.
I have a lot of respect for what Shula did. I look at it and I see that I saw a situation that I didn't like regarding my own sexuality and how it would be accepted or not accepted at New Jew. And Shula saw a very similar situation, and she did everything she could to try and change it. And that takes guts.